Hi everyone, I'm Leroy Hamm with IHD Corporation. Have you ever noticed that there's a chemistry between some people, and yet with others it's like two ships passing in the night? We're going to talk today about what causes those fundamental differences and basically talk about the four personality types or behavioral styles and what we'll be referring to as the four basic temperaments. And I've been in this business for about 20 years and have worked with hundreds of clients over the years in helping them to increase cooperation and decrease tension in working with each other. With me today, I have Andy Mottewell, who is the training manager for MHA Group, which is a physician search firm. It's a division of AMN Healthcare, which is the largest healthcare placement service in the United States. And I would like to now talk to or ask Andy a couple of questions about the temperaments and really what difference the temperaments have made. Andy, how did you first come to work with the temperament concept? When were you introduced to it, and how has it been useful for you?
I was first introduced to the whole concept of people being different based on temperaments when I was in college, and it was in a class that I took. And that really intrigued me at that point because I was in church ministry at the same time. I turned around and later used that when I went to work for a church ministry-based organization, and what we did is that we would work with ladies and gentlemen who wanted to start a church. They were church planters. And we would use these temperament assessments in order to identify what their basic temperaments were to help them understand themselves even more, their strengths and their weaknesses, so that they would match someone else to help them with their weaknesses. And then years went by and I moved from out of the church world or out of the ministry-based world into corporate America. In the company that I'm in now, we use that as part of our hiring process to understand more about the candidate that we're about to hire or that we're considering hiring than just what's on the resume or than just what we can find out through normal or traditional interview methods that we used to use.
Have you, with the company that you're working with presently, have you found that that there's certain temperaments that tend to kind of rise to the top and others that tend to be, say, more sales, other temperaments that tend to be more administrative and so forth?
Yeah, we really have. In certain parts of our company, we notice that there are specific temperaments that seem to rise to the top. But it's not uniformly across the board. In some of our production, what we refer to as production areas, those would be our recruiters and our marketers, it seems that often someone that is a high D or a choleric often excels and moves forward. I think it's kind of their goal-oriented nature that helps them become very successful. But in other parts of our company and more of our administrative areas, we'll see that another temperament might rise to the top in that area. For example, a high C or a melancholy individual would become very successful. So what we've identified is that all temperaments can be successful if we match them to the area that they can excel in.
Okay, okay. What I'd like to do in starting off our discussion of the four basic temperaments is actually talk about the background of the four temperaments, and then what we'll be referring to today is the high D, the high I, the high S, and the high C. Okay. Of course, in the background of the four temperaments, what I find is unique about the study of the temperaments is that it's probably the oldest discussion or model of human behavior that there is. It goes clear back to Hippocrates, who in 430 BC.
That is true, and that is one of the things we're working with our managers on right now, is understanding that their management style is really generated from who they are in their own temperament.
Yes.
But that if they want to be truly successful leaders and not just managers of people, it's going to be incumbent upon them to make the change, not their employees.
And
so we're trying to educate them.
With me. I changed my whole approach to my boss, and he didn't change a bit, but our relationship improved dramatically.
Yes.
And I wonder to this day if he noticed the difference.
Yeah.
You know, but it sure increased cooperation and decreased tension. What I would like to do is to give kind of an overview of the 4 basic temperaments. But before I do, you know, there's 3 basic questions that even if a person did not go to the disc 2, that's Roman numeral 2.com, they could ask these 3 basic questions, and by the answers that I'm going to give would be able to determine what at least their primary temperament is, if, say, 2 out of 3 of the answers end up being an I, for example. The first question is, when you're under stress, how do you tend to respond?
Yes.
And you can ask these questions at dinner tonight, for example, but when you ask the question, how do you respond to stress, you have to define what you mean by stress, which in this case I would say it's unfulfilled expectations, differences of opinion, power struggle, workload, all the above, and all of us can max out in all of those areas. So when you're under stress, the high D tends to get angry and aggressive to respond to the stress, to fix it, you know, to dominate it, to get results and so forth. When the high I is under stress, their response is to be much more verbal.
That is true.
They vent, as you well know. It's like I'm preaching to the choir when I tell you this. But the high S, the way that they respond to stress is they're just kind of there. You know, they're not going to be aggressive because they don't want to offend. They want to maintain peace and harmony, but they're not going to withdraw because they're so darn stubborn. You know, and they just kind of stay put. The high C under stress will withdraw, and they'll think about it. Then they'll come back later and say, I've been thinking about what you said, and I don't appreciate one bit that you said A, B, C, and D. And you're going, that was 3 weeks ago. You know, you're all on down the road. But if you'll ask a person what their response to stress is and give them those 4 choices and define stress, you can pretty well tell what a person's primary temperament is. The second question is, what makes you angry? What really gets under your skin? And the high D, the thing that makes them angry is feeling like they've been taken advantage of. And also incompetency. And in asking the question over the years, I've noticed that the high D will always say, stupid people make me angry.
Yes.
You know? And I always laugh at it because I would certainly not use that term, but that's what it seems like to them, the incompetency, the slowness, and of course, like I said, being taken advantage of.
For a high I, it's got to be injustice. Am I right?
And deception, absolutely.
And deception, yes.
Because they're so open.
Yes.
You know, and they expect others to lay it out on the table, to be open with them. Now the high S, the thing that makes them angry is the high D. I'm just kidding, but it's you know, it's like the aggressive person. High D can be aggressive. High S, I can be aggressive. But it's like the example you used earlier of the individual in Office Space. Is that the name of the new movie?
Yes.
Where he wanted to keep everything as is. Status quo is what they're all about.
That's right.
And so when someone comes and says, we're going to move your office, I'll never forget when I was teaching school. I taught 8th grade American history in St. Louis. And one of the older ladies that was there, kind of the matriarch of the entire junior high school I was in, the administrator told her that they were going to move her off her room the next year. And she told him in no uncertain terms that was not going to be the case. And so that was an interesting exchange right there. Well, it turns out that she did get her room moved, but I mean, she literally had branded that as her room. They can be very possessive, but the high C, the thing that makes the high C angry is their work being criticized.
Absolutely.
And on our way over this morning, I remember you saying that if you really want to get a high C upset, all you've got to do is look over their shoulder and say, that's wrong.
That is right.
And what was another example you used?
They see their work as being truly almost like a mirror reflection of who they are. And so then when you criticize something that they've done, they take it to be very personal that you're criticizing that individual. And it's very disconcerting to them, really offends them that you would criticize their work, take it very personally.
And the high C by nature is very sensitive anyway. They're so conscientious
Yes.
I remember mentioning something negative about a friend's work, and he said, you know, I put a lot of time into this, and I want you to know that I have really given a lot of thought to this, and it's taken me a long time to do this, you know.
Yes.
And I said, whoa, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you, but
Yeah.
they can be very sensitive about their work. You criticize the IHD's work, and they'll say that's your problem.
That's true.
Totally
That's
different.
true.
I think
Absolutely.
it's significant what people need from others and what they need themselves. When you get a handle on both sides of the equation and of the relationship, then it increases cooperation, decreases tension. It makes life a lot more enjoyable, and it increases profits in a company dramatically, simply because you've greased the skid, so to speak, and made that sled run a lot smoother than it would have in the in the days of pre and post World War II. There was this attitude that you could just drive things through like a drill sergeant, and you could make it happen, and that dog don't hunt anymore.
No, those things have really changed. One of the courses I'm currently writing is appreciating generational differences. And with each generation, the style of leadership and our understanding of the temperaments becomes even more critical to that next generation, because you're right, things have changed, and the idea of do it because I said that, because I said so, those days are long gone. And people who continue to try to lead in that manner without understanding and adjusting themselves to the various temperaments that work beneath them, I feel like that their days or their level of success are numbered. They'll only arise to a certain level. But that's kind of how we use the D, the I, the S, and the C, not only in the hiring process, but in the managing. So they all become critically important to one another. And when we do not appreciate our differences, we'll never be able to fully appreciate the strengths and the weaknesses that each person brings to the table.
Well, the key, of course, is to first understand the differences. The second is to accept the differences. And then I think what's really neat is that you finally get to the point where you appreciate the differences. And that's what we really want to get to in the study of the four basic temperaments, is to understand, accept, and appreciate the fundamental differences in people.
Well, I try to explain that to our managers, and I'm not sure that irony is the proper word for it, but it's interesting that in our line of business, we have a lot of Ds that are out there selling, but the most contention, I guess, occurs between our production areas out there selling and our back office administrative support people that are trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. The D goes out there and gets the sale, and as soon as they get the sale, they feel like, see, I've captured the flag, I'm done. They toss it to the side, and the high C's are in the back saying, well, wait a minute, we didn't get the physician signature, we didn't get the hospital signature, we've got to make sure these forms are filled out, we've got to get, and so they have to have each other.
Right. Right.
But until they really truly understand that, they'll never really appreciate what each other brings to the table.
And that, of course, is the essence of teamwork.
It is.
Is to understand, accept, appreciate, and then do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, in the book Execution by Larry Bossidy, he talks about, him and Ram Shriram talk about executing what it is that we know to do. So many theories and projects and ideas and the latest buzzword and so forth have come along, but the implementation and the execution is really the most difficult part to it, and yet the most significant. And if you inculcate the whole concept of temperaments, as MHA has done over the years since about 1990, it's become a part of your corporate culture, and it's it's a universal language in your company. And it is within our family. You know, we talk, oh, that's because you're a high I, oh, that's because you're a high S, and so forth. And we have a lot of fun with it. It should never be used to manipulate anyone, always to be used to enhance relationships and to motivate people. And so, thank you for being with me today, Andy. I appreciate the input. You're definitely and obviously a professional at what you do. And we will be meeting in the future and talking about another session on how to supervise the temperaments and another one on how to sell to the basic temperaments.
Yes.
And we'll ultimately go into a little bit more of a discussion of the assessment itself, the DISC 2.
Great, I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.